When I was a freshman in university, I remember going to a senior for some advice, and the metaphor that he used to help me through what I was going through is one of the few pieces of advice in my life that I've gotten from somebody else that has actually stuck with me to this day, and I still use the mental image in my head anytime I get overwhelmed. I went to one of the top universities in the world, specifically for engineering, and I was unbelievably academically outclassed. I was a top performer in my small private high school, but I was definitely the big fish in a small pond. And then come to find out in university, especially freshman year, my high school wasn't as academically rigorous as I thought. I had the intelligence necessary, but I had never actually learned to study or work hard. So academics ramped up a tremendous amount. I was also walking on to a college lacrosse team, which was a massive step up athletically for myself. And then finally, I was pledging into a fraternity as well, which is like a whole story in and of itself, which I can go into another time. But I was putting a lot on my plate. I'm grateful that I chose it all, but it led to a tremendous amount of overwhelm. I remember the very first test I took at college at all, I got a 49%, and this is a kid that never got less than an A his entire life. So I was just really, really overwhelmed. I felt very alone, I think, as a lot of freshmen do. You're finally out of the nest, you're no longer living at home. I have 2 younger brothers, I had to leave them. So I remember going to a 5th-year senior in my fraternity and asking him, his advice to his younger self, like how he deals with time management, balancing all this stuff, and the feeling of overwhelm when you are a high achiever. You're capable of a lot, but you just don't know how to deal with the massive stack of tasks that you have. You don't know how to break it down. And he said you can think of every single one of those tasks, whatever they are, like literally they could be a physical task or they could actually be like an assignment in school. Think of every one of those as an individual piece of paper, like a worksheet. And if you went to your desk and you had everything that you needed to do for the day, the week, the year, all on top of the desk, it would be completely overwhelming, right? You'd have hundreds of pages, maybe thousands of pages. You would have no idea how to start, and simply looking at all of them at once would freak you out and you wouldn't be able to start. So the way he described it to me is take the stack, organize it in the way that makes sense, typically by time, priority, and urgency, like due date of when those things are due in your life specifically. Put them in a neat stack and then put them in a file folder or a cabinet, and then close the cabinet, and then only take out one sheet of paper at a time. Only allow your brain to look at, worry about, think about a singular task, a singular thing at the time. And I've learned so much since then, and it's crazy that there was such sage wisdom in this. It's essentially talking about the power of the present moment. You can only truly be present right now. So you have to show up. The highest level at which you can show up for anyone or anything is simply being entirely present and not worrying about, what's the next thing in the stack, or how am I going to get that thing that's like 13 pages down that's due 2 or 3 weeks from now, but it's a big thing, so it's scaring me. That takes away from your ability to be as efficient, effective, present as possible with the thing that's right in front of you. And for whatever reason, it just clicked in my head. This analogy was just really, really powerful because I like the idea of pulling out one task and literally only giving yourself permission to work on that thing while it's in front of you until it is complete. And then you file it to the done folder, and then you get to work on the next thing. This is especially helpful with bigger projects that are going to take some time to break down. Like you're not going to be able to do them in one sitting, but you only give yourself permission to work on it. Maybe it's for a fixed amount of time. You might not be able to go from start to finish of the thing, but you say, I'm going to work for an hour on, maybe it's reading, right? Maybe you're trying to read War and Peace. It's a massive book. It's like 1,000 pages. You're not going to read it all in one sitting, but you say, I'm going to read for an hour, or I'm going to read 100 pages, and I'm not allowed to think about anything else until I get to that completion point, the hour or the 100 pages. Then you put it away, and then when you move to the next thing, you're not thinking about all the reading that you didn't do or still have to do on War and Peace, because it's slotted away. You're not allowed to think about it. And likewise, the next thing that has arrived, you're fully present with that. You're not pulled into the future. You're not pulled into the assignments you didn't do, the deadlines you've missed. And so I hope that the analogy is landing as hard as it did for me, or as effectively as it did for me. Definitely in life in general, and especially as somebody who wants a lot out of life, one of the harder things is knowing that you really could be successful at basically anything that you tried, and there's so much out there to try, so it's very tempting to get pulled in every direction. A lot of people call it shiny object syndrome, and that's true in the macro, like what do I do with my life, what do I build for my quote-unquote career, but I think that's true in the micro, like how do you spend your day, especially if you're in a really cool environment, you have a lot of cool friends around you doing cool stuff. I'm here in Bali right now. I could go surf any time of the day. I could go train any time of the day. I could go to a cool co-working space. I could go meet up with friends. I could do deep work. I could record a video. I have kind of at any moment an unlimited array of options. So if I made every minute of the day just random and had to choose and think about the options and then pick the thing that was most interesting or just kind of came up, it would just create a lot of chaos, and you wouldn't be able to march systematically towards your goals, versus carving out specific times of the day for deep work, for recording, for editing, for surfing, for training, for hanging out with friends. And in that way, I think you get a lot more out of life versus trying to do everything all at once and ending up really getting none of it. You're kind of grasping at straws or grasping at different experiences very sporadically, but you don't really get to be present, because say you haven't planned your day and you have a bunch of shit to do. For instance, me, today, I knew I had to record the video. If I didn't plan when I was going to do it, as well as edit it later, train and eat and all these other things, see a friend. When I went to surf this morning and I had just chosen, I'm going to surf, I'll get this stuff done later, I'd be out on the water thinking oh, I need to get back, I need to do this, when am I going to get that thing done? Versus I had already slotted it in for a specific time of day, 11 a.m. is when I'm going to film. So it gives me total freedom and permission to just be present when I'm out on the water and just be there surfing, and for the next stage and the next stage and the next stage of the day. And this is like peak productivity or life optimization, because you're not really trying to squeeze the most out of your output, like turn yourself into a machine. You still get the amazing breadth of experience of life, like you get to slot in the things that you're having fun with, but it's much more of a mental paradigm. You're allowing yourself to have the freedom of mind and then the presence in the moments to show up fully every single time to every single thing in person that you interact with, one at a time. And a quote that's coming to mind is that you can have anything you want in life, you just can't have everything. And I completely agree, and I actually think you can have everything across your life. You just can't have everything all at once. Life is finite in nature, meaning you can only kind of select into one thing at a time. Like, I like to surf. I also like to weightlift. I can't surf and weightlift at the same time. I can do both of them. I can have it all. I just can't have it all at the same time. And life can come in seasons as well. You can build a successful business, but it's probably going to take a little bit of a lonely period, a period where you have to really go into a grind mode. And that period might come with a little bit less of spending time in the sun, training, going out to dinners with friends, being lax on the weekends. Like, you're going to have to put in a lot of work to get this successful business. But on the macro, on your life at large, then you have the successful business, and then you get a season of life where you're more relaxed and you're traveling the world, say, and just being more flexible with yourself. And then there's a season for building a family. So to ground it all back in that analogy, you can think of like your entire life, this massive list. Maybe you even couch it in like a bucket list. You have each one of the things you want to do with your entire life as a sheet of paper. And instead of looking at a spread out stack, oh my God, I need to travel to this place, I need to meet this person, I want to build this business, I want to make this content, I want to, train for this specific sporting event, I want to fight, I want to do a marathon, that's awesome. I want to do it all. I want so much out of life. I crave the breadth and depth of the human experience, the most of which I'm going to get out of it. I'm trying to get as much as I can out as well. So I'm right there with you. But we have to be honest with ourselves and say that we can't have it all at the same time. So simply make your list, be clearly defined with all of the things that you want to do. I think that's a great place to start because it starts to sort things in your mind. And then once you have that, file it away and only take out one thing at a time. And I think this is a massive antidote to anxiety. You're not going to be worried about the next thing because you're literally only allowing yourself, you're giving yourself mental barriers, like mental guardrails or blinders to one thing at a time. And the crazy part is you'll be way more efficient and effective on the one thing. So you're actually going to start winning time back because you're not jumping in your head from what I'm doing here to what I need to be doing there to what I wasn't doing before. You're just there, and you'll get a lot more out of each individual day, which obviously compounds to give you more out of your week, your month, your year, and you'll get years back of time spent just thinking about doing all kinds of different stuff, or stuck in that kind of analysis paralysis where there's so many options or so many things to do that you're worried about it and you don't know how to start. You just need to start with one thing at a time, and only one thing at a time is like the emphasis point, because I'm saying kind of obvious stuff like you can only do one thing at a time, but on top of that, be disciplined with your thoughts to only allow yourself to think in the container of one thing that you're working on right now, and completely unconcern yourself with everything else that needs to get done. I hope this metaphor was as helpful for you as it was for me, because I still think about it, and that was over 5+ years ago now. So comment below if you found it valuable. What are your thoughts on this metaphor? Is it bullshit? What else do you want me to talk about? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.